Hey, wake up! It's time to start the show. Glad to see you all aboard Mouse Ears in Paradise. Let's get this show rolling.
Welcome to Mouse Ears in Paradise. I am Dave.
And I'm Becky. Hello.
Hello to another week, another episode. This week we're going to be talking about some changes to Disney Cruise Line, some Valentine's Day ideas.
Yes.
And
should you take your children out of school? Dave is looking at me like, what are you talking about? We discussed it no less than 3 minutes ago.
Yeah. All right, well, let's start off with the Disney Cruise Line announcements that we are excited about, and I think a lot of parents are excited about. That's just went into effect on the 1st of February.
Yeah, so now they are bringing back Dine and Play. Dine and Play is designed for kids ages 3 to 10 who are registered in the Oceaneer Club or Lab. And you have the 8:15 dinner seating. Youth counselors will be at the main dining room entrances between 9 and 9:15 for check-in. This allows kids to head off for fun in the clubs while parents enjoy a more relaxed dinner. Counselors will safely escort the kids to the secured kids club on board. I have to tell you, as I'm reading that, I still think like maybe we should change.
This is one of those things that we never got to experience because we started on the tail end of COVID, and this was not happening during that time. This is the stuff of legends to me. This is the stuff I've heard about, and like, oh, it's amazing. They just come and pick up your kids, and then they can go, and you can just enjoy the rest of your dinner. And it's like we've never experienced that, and now they're finally bringing it back.
Yeah,
I don't know why it took so long.
I don't either, but it's only for second seating, so that's something to be aware of, which I think I appreciate that they're going to do it for the families in second seating. So my understanding is you can kind of like just order the kids' food right away so they can have the food delivered. You can order the whole thing. They can get dessert, whatnot. They can eat and then go to kids' club. And 45 minutes is probably like a respectable amount of time for still a kid to sit and eat, in my opinion. It's still probably double than what we get on a regular night here at home. But at least from the youngest too. But I do love the idea of, well, even for our oldest, right? Like Annika, if she was sitting with just the two of us, her lingering is going to be much different than if it's still having to put up with her brother and sister.
Right.
We are in a fortunate spot that we can essentially pay Annika to bring Andrew to the kids club. So we do have some options there, but yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's great. It really does show Disney really is a families first kind of place, which I appreciate, right? Yeah. I think you and I will still go probably even more when we don't have kids living with us all the time, just because we'll have more disposable income and more freedom. But
hopefully.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
But yeah, I think it's great. So I'm hoping they bring it to early dinner. Chances of us having the access to that in 2 weeks are pretty slim, I think, unless there's some like magical thing that happens. But
I wonder if it's because they don't want you, like the adults, to stay back and linger because they got to kind of clear out for the second seating.
That's a good thought too.
But I think they used to do it.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, obviously we didn't experience it, but the way people talked about it implied that it was on both seatings, but I don't know.
So it was enough to make me really consider, because we currently have, for our cruise in 2 weeks, we have the 545 seating. And it was enough to make me pause and think like, should we switch it? And I still kind of wrestle with like, I mean, if they were like, hey, we need main seating, anybody want to switch for a $250 onboard credit? I'd be first in line. Like it just wouldn't take much to get me to switch.
Yeah.
The kids do miss some of the show, I think, this way, which is a little bit unfortunate. But
they don't have to go either.
No,
right?
That's true. And I'll bet that dining room settles right on down. Right on down, which is kind of crazy to think about. Yeah. So definitely a different different vibe, especially because like coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, it is a little bit wild to be like, we never in our house eat at 5:45, like ever would we eat that early here. We're more 7:00 dinner people.
Yeah,
but
although
the kids
will sometimes eat that early, which I think is why we tend to lean that way for the cruises.
Yeah,
the kids, the youngest two are usually hungry early.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm excited about it. I think it'll be great. Great for families, great for kids, great for everybody. Bring it to both
wins.
seatings. DCL, both seatings.
All right, so Valentine's Day is quickly approaching, and we figured why not talk a little bit about how you can Disneyfy your Valentine's Day if you want. And obviously, like, that is going to look different for different people.
Yeah. And I think we're trying to stay mostly at home. Like, what can you do at
Obviously,
home?
you could go to Disneyland.
I mean, there's like...
Go on a Disney cruise.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little late for that, but like, what could you do? So the first thing I thought of is fun wine glasses. Like, you can break out the special... we have some Pixar ones, maybe, that we
That's right, we do.
But also, there's a lot these days that have the characters on them, and a lot of corksicle ones that you could get out. That would be a fun way to like... can open a special bottle of wine and enjoy your Disney wine glasses. So,
well, that leads into what one of mine was get some Disney related wine.
All right, what? Tell me about that.
All right, so I had a few that were coming to mind, but I knew that there were more, and I was trying to jog my memory. And I googled it, and there D23 actually has an article about it and has listed some that I didn't even know about.
What? Yes. We got to make an order.
All right, so probably the one that's the most common that we talk about is Lasseter, right? So John Lasseter's wife has a winery, and we're members of that and enjoy their wine. There's Skywalker Ranch, of course, from George Lucas.
We've enjoyed theirs. We've had some.
We also enjoy the Fess Parker Winery.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
So Fess Parker. So
I'll give some shout outs for the Fess Parker. So who is Fess Parker?
Who is Fess Parker?
Yeah.
Davy Crockett.
Okay.
Among others.
Yeah. So, but I particularly enjoy, they have an Ashley Chardonnay that I think is really good. So I highly recommend that one. They have a Pinot Noir that I also like, and their Syrah is quite good. So if you're looking to make an order, I highly recommend those three. They also have the Big Easy every once in a while. They have this red blend that's out there, and that one's pretty good too. And I think it sits right at like $30 to $35 a bottle, which isn't bad, but they don't always carry it. So, but Ashley Chardonnay, that's my favorite.
All right. McMurray Ranch, Fred McMurray, from many things, including Absent Minded Professor, Son of Flubber, etc., etc. This is one that I didn't realize. Maybe I did, but I don't remember it, which is Kurt Russell has one called Gogi, Gogi Wines. So Kurt Russell, he's got one. Silverado Wines.
Oh, we haven't had them in a long time.
I thought that they sold
I thought they did
too, but if it's got at least some starts in the Disney family, because it was Diane Disney Miller and her husband started that with Ron Miller. And then there's Frank Family Vineyards.
Yeah, we've had them a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. And Chapelet Winery, which is from Frank G. Wells.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the sister of Frank G. Wells, I guess.
Okay.
So, and I think that covers all of the ones that they listed. So, some more Disney related than others, but yeah. So there's some. I feel like we're missing one still, but I think that's plenty of to choose from.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list so far. You could, of course, get out your Disney cookbooks. There's lots of things to be had from there that are great and enjoyable. You could fix yourself a Disney cocktail or a Disney appetizer or a main entree. We particularly enjoy, if you want to Google and make it super simple, the Primetime 50s Primetime meatloaf. We really enjoy that one.
Yes, we do.
It's a very good wintry dish.
We just had it not too long ago.
Yeah, I know. Not even a Valentine's Day. And the coconut almond chicken we really like.
Mhm.
So you can Google those. Both of those are great recipes if you are looking for a Disney recipe for Valentine's Day. So I don't know what we're doing. We are packing because we fly out at 6:30 the next morning, 6:10 the next morning. Our Valentine's Day is going to be postponed to Palo Brunch. This is the first time I'm telling Dave about it. So he's now being informed of what his Valentine's Day plans are.
Okay.
There's no Valentine's Day plans until we're on the boat at Palo Brunch.
Okay.
So
noted.
Yeah. Manage your expectations.
Okay. Managed.
All right. I like that it was all about food and eating and drinking.
Yeah.
You can tell what's important to us.
I think it's probably more of an adult crowd that's listening to us. So sure, you can go online and print some Disney Valentine's Day activities or Valentine's cards or whatever. Like there's tons out there. You just Google it, you're going to find a ton of stuff. Official and unofficial. So, I think that'd be another thing you could do. You could watch Lady and the Tramp, or you could watch
any Disney love story.
Any Disney love story. So there's plenty to choose from if you wanted to go that way. So, all right. So potentially, sometimes controversial subject is: should you take your kids out of school to go on these trips to maybe on a cruise or to Disneyland, Disney World, wherever? Should you take your kids out of school?
Yeah, I thought we could talk about this, one, because it's been a major topic in the teachers' lounge recently.
Because you're a teacher, so you have a unique perspective, parent and teacher.
And I have to say, like, I teach elementary school, so that has some impact to it because it's a different game at elementary than at high school. And then we've been discussing with our friends Becca and Dan just the pros and cons of taking our kids out of school and what our plans are for next year and how we're going to manage that. We both have kids going into high school. And I wanted to kind of bring in some research, which there's a lot out there on a lot of different things. So some of the background is I work in a school that has a very international crowd, right? Like there's just we live in the Bay Area, so there's a lot of people from a lot of different places. And so we had some kids, for example, who are traveling back to China for Lunar New Year, right? So they're going to be gone potentially 3 to 4 weeks out of school. And so there's some, teachers are talking about, well, like, what do you do with that? How do you handle that as a teacher? And how do you handle that as a family? And why would you do that? And why would you not do that? And so I kind of was thinking about what does the research say? And so I found an article. There's a lot of articles out there, so you can read. I would highly encourage you to avoid just a blogging family because I feel like that's one person's experience. So it's good to look into what other people are saying. So they interviewed a woman named Laura, who is a senior neuropsychologist at the Child Mind Institute. Okay, so she actually does mind research of children for a living. So we'll give her some credibility. And she says, some parents may be under the impression that missing school won't impact younger children. She adds, however, at those ages, children are learning foundational skills like reading and writing. A missed learning opportunity, as well as missed reinforcement of newly learned skills, can set them back relative to their classmates and class expectations at a time when academic learning compounds. And then, of course, there's arguments about, well, being away and having family ties. Like, definitely having family ties is important. And the more kids feel connected to their families, that generally creates more stable kids and kids who have a strong understanding of what the family value system is. So there's a lot to be said for that too. And so I think our opinion has even changed. I'm noticing my opinion changing a little bit on this. I don't know if you're feeling this way or not.
I'm feeling that yours is changing.
You're feeling that mine is changing. So I have generally been very pro taking our kids out of school.
Because they can learn different things in theory wherever they are. Like if we're traveling the world, or travel skills, or being in different cultures, even different cities, and learning how to navigate and things like that.
For sure. Like there's even dumb things like knowing how to read a bus schedule, or knowing how to get on a bus and how to get off a bus, or knowing how to get sometimes like, there's been times recently where we've gone through the airport. I'm like, you guys act like you've never been through the airport before. And yet I know we do this every 2 to 3 months, like, which isn't even the most out of anybody. So, but like, I'm now feeling pressure from Annika, who has these extracurricular activities. Like, she's missing 4 days of her indoor performing ensemble, and she's not pleased about it. And almost to the point that I felt like, well, maybe we should have cut the trip short and come home. And she's only in 8th grade. So
it's a high school activity though. So I think you're getting the high school pressures and peer pressure that goes with that we haven't experienced before.
Yeah, I've found it shocking. Like, I don't remember as a high schooler ever feeling that way. Do you remember in high school ever feeling like, I can't miss this class?
Not a class, but I do remember theater, like getting it from the theater side of things,
really?
Which is probably more akin to what her ensemble thing is. Like, there was a youth group ski trip, and it was mean I missed a Saturday rehearsal, and I went to get permission, and he's like, well, you need to do what you think is the right thing to do. It's just like, yikes. Like, you made a commitment, and that means you're expected to be here. So you need to make the choice. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is that kind of thing where, it is a commitment, and some of these things are relatively short periods of time.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to like get ready, like a play, I don't know what it is, say 8 weeks or something like that. So if you're missing one of the Saturdays, like,
it is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. I'm just noticing like she's homesick this weekend, and she's panicked about missing one day of school. And it's just not the world I expected to live in, where we felt like we've been very cavalier, particularly with her, about missing school. Like, especially in her elementary years, she missed a ton of school.
Right. And she always had good grades.
And
she
never suffered for it. And I will say, like, as a teacher, my philosophy became, even in middle school, like, if you were going to travel, you just were not going to have the same educational experience that the people did in class, because so much of what we did happened in class. But that said, that didn't mean that it was better or worse. There were certainly kids, like, I think our kids who traveled to China to see their grandparents for 3.5 weeks are probably getting a better educational experience than what they would get if they stayed at home. Right. And came to school for those 3 weeks. Right. They're just getting a different.
Right.
So, but what they are getting is super important for who they're going to be. So, I don't know. It's just interesting as I watch. Like, I kind of thought in COVID, like, people would give up on the school attendance. And I will say, too, this is all very private school opinion, right? Because if you go to public school, they're going to give you a hard time about this, because they don't get paid if you're not there. And they do not like that. So they do have some.
And there's probably some Bay Area intricacies here too, where there is very, I think, perhaps an abnormally high level of pressure of like, get good grades, get into a good college, get a good job, like type of thing that is almost part of the culture here. Everybody's like high achievers. A lot of, the Bay Area, I remember it was something like, there was something ridiculous, like 50% of Bay Area had, at least a bachelor's, and like,
it's ridiculously high.
A huge, like, in the numbers of just like masters and PhDs and stuff. And so like you have all these high achievers that are being drawn by the tech companies to the Bay Area, and then they're marrying other high achievers and then having kids and wanting them to be high achievers. So like you kind of have this compound swirling tornado of expectations that I feel might be unique,
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Know. Most of those high achieving parents are not having high achieving children. So
yeah, it doesn't, it's a mixed bag on that, I think, probably.
So, but I thought, just kind of as a way to wrap up, we could talk about some strategies for then what do you do? Let's say you don't want to book outside, let's say you don't want to actually miss school. If you want to stay inside, like what are things that you can do to work within that system?
Okay.
Then? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You stick with the school holidays and breaks.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing we've really had to change compared to what we used to do is that we have started booking much further out than we ever used to, right? When our kids were young, the concept of booking a cruise a year out to me was
overwhelming
and insane. Like I just would have never, how would I even know what my life would be in a year?
I mean, I think we booked at least 2 cruises that we ended up having to cancel because I think got pregnant one time and I don't remember what the other time, something else happened. There was some sort of life event. I don't remember what it was. And so like, because we booked it so far out, we had no idea what life was going to be like. And sure enough, life lifed, and we didn't go on those cruises.
Yeah. So that definitely has been a change for me. Like now I'm looking at, I almost feel like we should have already booked 2025 February. 2026 February. And now I feel like maybe when they release 2027, I'll just book something. Like, it's very interesting how things have changed because, like you said, I feel like, well, Annika only has 4 more years in high school. And not that we won't take her with us after that, but she's going to have a very different schedule than what everybody else is going to have.
Right. Yeah. They're, even here, the public and private schools don't align, or even private to private don't align.
I know.
So, like, you have to assume that if she goes off to college in 4 years, and she's gonna have a totally different schedule than
which is shocking. So I want to make sure we take advantage of our time because it's important to her. Like of all the kids, she's the one who cares the most about all this stuff, which is also very interesting. So that's been a strategy, I think. Extending one weekend, I think, has worked well for us, right? Like one day, or that even
so they're missing a day of class.
Of flexibility has helped.
Because then you can usually get cheaper airfare, which kind of makes it all more doable and stuff.
4th of July, we have found to be pretty flexible and not overly expensive, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
Compared to spring break or compared to Christmas break, I feel like it's worked well. So
I think 4th of July, I mean, it seems like I know people go camping for 4th of July, but otherwise I don't feel like people necessarily go on a destination trip for 4th
it's
of
not
July.
always the case. Yeah. So, and then we've also been looking a lot at just the first week that school ends. Because schools end at such different times. So if your school ends early, I know, Dave, that's what your family did a lot when you guys were growing up. So I don't know, it's just a different way to think about it. And then also just deciding like the conclusion. And part of it is because I'm working as a teacher, but I think we would have ended up here anyways. Like, yeah, it's extra money. But if the choice is to not go or to spend the extra money is gonna, like, you can earn the extra money, but you can't earn back the time that the kids are the same age, right? Like there's always, I feel like for me, there's always more ways to earn extra cash.
Yep.
Like you can take an after school class, or you can do, like, there's ways to pick up the extra money, but like I can't get back. Like it just falls away. The time goes away. I know I'm now an old lady who complains about this. And believe me, I still complain.
Kids are getting older fast.
They are. So anyways, those are just thoughts about things to consider.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate and value your perspective. And I hope all of our listeners do too.
Oh my goodness, you're so funny.
All right, so
he just nods his head and smiles when I say, like, we're gonna do this, okay?
Yep, that's what my travel agent said.
Oh my word! Stop.
All right, so that brings us to our magical moments.
Yeah, you got one?
I guess, it's kind of maybe a weird thing. It's definitely not Disney related at all, but it was kind of cool. I had a former employee who left, and he Because of personal family reasons, at the time I had hoped and believed it was nothing to do with me or the company. But he left, and he reached out to me because he wanted to get some input on going for a promotion at his new job and wanted to pick my brain, get ideas, tips, tricks, stuff like that. And so that was pretty cool for me. Like as an employer, as a manager, it's kind of like, oh, maybe I am doing something right.
Yeah.
Right? Like when that happens, where you kind of wonder sometimes. So it was appreciated to have him reach out, and so that made me feel good and glad that I could provide that for him in his life.
It was cool. Mine is I have successfully made our fish extender. On our last podcast, we talked a little bit about this, and it actually worked out. So it turns out that the fabric I had from the old Disneyland Hotel comforters, like it has a bunch of different attractions on it, and like each attraction ended up essentially being like 8.5 by 12. And so the fish extender came out as like a piece of fabric that each has a different attraction on it. So we've got the Mickey train station.
Each of the pockets, basically.
Yeah, each of the pockets. A Mickey train station, a Jungle Cruise boat, the Astro Orbiter, and the Haunted Mansion. And so it's not perfect. There are things that are like if
looks perfect to me.
If you get out your ruler, you're going to be mortified. But if you're walking by and you're just looking at it, you're going to think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
especially if
they know
that comforter, they remember it. It's kind of a throwback.
It is a throwback. You're going to have some deep knowledge.
Yeah.
But there will be people who have deep knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. I'm proud.
Yeah, you should be.
I mean,
it looks good.
Not perfect again, but I'm pretty proud of it.
No, I think it's going to be great. Yeah. Good job.
Thanks for supporting me.
Of course. Now I've got our magnets and keychains.
Ready to
go. All set to go. So hopefully I have enough. I don't know.
We have what we have.
We have what we have.
So it's enough.
It's going to have to be enough.
Because there's no other option.
Yeah. I keep thinking, do I make more? Do I not? Do I make more? Do I not? So we'll see. Anything can happen. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today's episode, but we would love to get your feedback. You can email us at mouseearsinparadise@gmail.com. And you can follow us on our social media at Mouse Ears in Paradise, except for X. We're Paradise Ears.
Yeah.
Because
does anyone
X.
still go there besides Elon? Because I don't.
Only people that really want to see a lot of kind of spiraling anger.
Yeah.
I think is really what you go there for.
Fair.
And, sometimes people like to just watch the trauma.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, it's still there. All right. And you can find more information at mouseearsinparadise.com. All right. Now go make some magic in your life and the people around you.
You're here.
Bye.
Bye.
Applause. Applause. We hope you've all enjoyed the show.